Hi, this is Arizona estate planning attorney Richard Keyt. My son and I, Richard C. Keyt, who's also an Arizona estate planning attorney, we prepare wills and trusts and estate plans for our clients because we want them to protect their most valuable assets, their loved ones. So what I'm going to do now is show you the contents of our estate plan when somebody hires us to prepare an estate plan with a revocable living trust. So here's your trust agreement, and it's actually very easy to read. It's not too much legalese, so we do invite you to read it. Now, looking at your revocable living trust, there is an option that we give our clients to create what's called a lifetime beneficiary controlled asset protected trust for each of your future beneficiaries. So there's basically two ways that you can leave assets to your loved ones if you die. One is outright with no asset protection, and the other way is inside an asset protected trust where your beneficiaries, your children who inherit, if they get assets, those assets are going to be protected from the children's creditors, ex-spouses, and bankruptcy court. So if a child ever got sued, creditor couldn't get any of the inherited assets. Or if a child got married and divorced, ex-spouse can't get any of the inherited assets. Or if the child filed personal bankruptcy, bankruptcy court can't get the inherited assets because the assets are owned by the trust. They're not owned by the child. So that's why the assets are protected. That's called a beneficiary controlled lifetime asset protected trust. And that's one of the options that we offer people when we do an estate plan. We also include language in our revocable living trust that's in standby mode, may not be used ever or may not be needed until sometime in the future, but it's special needs language that applies if and when or only if you have any future beneficiaries who are special needs people. So you can't predict now whether your child 20 years from now might be a special needs person. But the language in our trust agreement is set up so that if ever in the future any of your beneficiaries become special needs people, then their trust will become a special needs trust. So that means that your loved one will not lose any government benefits. We also give you an option of including incentive and disincentive provisions in your trust agreement. We have a link that we give you that takes you to a Word document that has incentive and disincentive provisions, and you can tell us if you want to add any of those to your trust. For example, you might want to say that if your child graduates from a 4-year college or university, the child gets a bonus of $20,000. Or you might want to have disincentive provisions where if the child becomes an alcoholic or a drug user, that the child doesn't get any benefits from the trust. Instead, trust money can be used for rehab, but the child won't get any distributions until the child gets over the drug or alcohol problem. So pick and choose if you want to add any incentive or disincentive provisions to your trust agreement. We do have an option to create pet trusts for people who have pets and want to care for them after they're gone. One of our clients had 10 dogs and was very concerned. They didn't have any children or other family members, but they wanted to make sure that their 10 dogs were taken care of if something happened to them. So they actually set aside $1 million in their pet trust and provided that one person would be named as the person who took care of the animals, and another person would be the person who oversaw the caregiver. So if the caregiver wasn't doing a good job, the person who oversaw the caregiver could fire the caregiver and replace the caregiver, but that money would be available to be used to take care of the 10 dogs. And then it also provided what happened if all 10 dogs died. There was a designation of what happened to the funds that remained in the trust agreement. In this case, it went to a charity. We also prepare a pet emergency card for our clients who have pets and want to make sure that they're taken care of if something happened. So here's an example of the card. And then if you turn it over on the back, it lists the pet names and also names the people and their contact info who need to be called if something happens. So if you're in a car accident in LA and you need to make sure that your animals are cared for, the doctors will find this card in your purse or your wallet, and then they'll know who to call so they can tell those people that you're in the hospital and they need to go take care of your pets. Now, when we give you your red book, right in the front, there'll be two of these little trust ID cards. It's got our lawyer info on one side, but the trust ID card shows third parties like a bank or investment company how to title assets in the name of your trust. Because what you can do is go to the bank, take your trust ID card with you and show it to the banker and say, I want to change the ownership of my bank account over to my trust. You give this card to the banker, and the banker then knows exactly what language to use to transfer assets so that those assets are owned by your trust. When we do an estate plan, we also do a deed that transfers your home into the trust. Because remember, one of the reasons to have a trust is to avoid probate, but you don't avoid probate unless the trust owns the assets. So, as one of the documents that we prepare for our estate planning clients is a deed that transfers their home into their trust. After you sign your trust agreement, we'll send you an email that has a link to what we call the Arizona Beneficiary Car Title. The Arizona Department of Motor Vehicles has a form that you can fill out that says that if you die, who inherits the title to your vehicle. Now, that doesn't work for vehicle titles that have two or more owners. It only works for vehicles that have only one person on the title, but it is a good way to make sure that the right person inherits your car. If you just are the only person on the title, you can fill out this form. We'll give you a link to it. You print it, you fill it out and sign it, and then you keep it in your records. And I would give a copy of it to the person who's going to inherit the car if you die.